Welcome back to another episode of the Media Pass. I'm your host, Alex, joined as always by your other host, Matt. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm doing spectacular. Despite the sound of my voice, I lost it for a good reason, as me and Alex were discussing prior to the show. But you know what? It doesn't matter because today, Alex, we get to watch basketball. That matters.
Well, depending on who you ask, it matters. I still get comments from people that are like, "Oh, wake me up when the playoffs start." Like, who cares about the regular season? I'm like, whatever, dude. Like, it's 2024 and we're still doing the regular season doesn't matter thing. Like, I don't know. To me, that's just like, that's so 2010s, man. Come on.
I mean, the Boston Celtics, dude, they were best record in the league last year. If you check their win-loss record, it seemed like the regular season mattered to them.
That's what people are saying. But the other thing people are talking about is a lot of rookie extensions happened yesterday. We have a lot of them to go through. We're going to go through them pretty quick because this is only a small portion of what we have planned for this episode. We'll get into some of the other stuff that we have. Also, real quick, we have a very special announcement to share with you all at the end of the episode. So stick around. Stay tuned for that.
Don't timestamp. Don't timestamp that.
No timestamps. We get people in the comments all the time asking for chapters. I might do chapters. I'm not timestamping this one. You're gonna have to stick around and find out. But first and foremost, let's get into these extensions before we start losing people here. Players who extended this offseason. The Cade Cunningham one happened a while back. We don't have to. I'm just looking at the NBA's website right now for all the players that signed their rookie extension. Jalen Green. How'd you feel about that one? This was a pretty controversial one. It's a 2+1, 3 years, $106 million. How you feeling?
Can you remind me, is that a team option or a player option?
It is a player option.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's so hard. I try to calculate like production value and all that stuff. And I mean, that Houston team it's so funky to me with like Şengün and Green. And I know you like the Şengün deal. I don't know. I'm still not there with Green, really. I know that the cap's rising and stuff, but I don't like it that much.
I will say my opinion about the Şengün deal is that I found it incredibly reasonable. I'm not like, I saw a lot of people saying like, this is a massive steal. And I'm like, it's just under market value. It's a good deal. It's like I go to Walmart and they've got like, get 2 packs of Coke Zero, get your third one free. It's like, okay, that's a good deal. It's not a steal, but it's a good deal. That's how I feel about the Şengün deal. The Jalen Green deal, I think it was Sam Vecini who tweeted this, and I think it sums things up pretty well. There's 2 ways that this can go. Either you're paying him, either Jalen Green doesn't play up to the contract and you're paying him, $30+ million for the next 2, maybe 3 years, and you're screwed if he opts into that player option if he doesn't play up to the contract. Or he does play up to the contract and you only have him for 2 years and he declines that player option his 3rd year and asks for more. So the window of opportunity with this contract is where I think I'm kind of like, this could be problematic because if it goes well, you don't have him for very long and you don't have him on a good deal for very long. If it goes poorly, then he's not really, that contract is a bad contract for the next 2, potentially 3 years. So I don't know. I'm like, I don't think it's as bad as some people have said, but I also don't think it's great where I'm at with it.
So, simple formula I like to use, I look at estimated wins, multiply that by the amount of money a win is worth in a given season, right? To find that, you just divide the max salary cap by 41 wins for that year. So next season, a win's worth, this season now because we're in it. But this season, a win would be worth $3.3 million. And our good friend Jalen Green, he he gave you 4 wins last season, played all 82 games. So you can't say that if he was healthier, he would be worth more wins. So 4 times 3.3 is about $12.9 million. So again, that's probably not the formula that every front office is using, but $12.9 million is a lot different than the $30 million.
Yeah. But we got to move through these pretty quick, so we won't dwell on Jalen Green too much. I know he's a very polarizing player. We'll see if the last 25 games that he played last year are indicative of what's to come. But the next guy that we got to talk about is Jalen Suggs. This is a deal that I think a lot of people were pretty pleased with. Believe it or not, the $30 million a year price tag for role players is kind of, if you want like a high end starter who is not a star, chances are you're going to have to pay $30 million a year for him. I think that's just kind of how it is in the NBA. And to be fair, that's still less than 20% of the cap. It's not like that's an exorbitant amount of money taking up some huge slice of the pie that is prohibitive from keeping you from building a sound team. I think this deal is fine. It's a good deal.
Oh yeah, I love it. He's going to be in that, elite tier of role players, kind of think like Alex Caruso type player for the next decade.
Yeah. I think we're going to see some more on-ball scoring juice from him this year. And that's kind of one of the swing factors that I'm going to be watching, because I think this is a good deal no matter what, but it could turn into whoa, this is a really, 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 really good deal if the improvements continue to happen. Well, moving on,
you're right. Yeah, I'll leave it at
what
that.
You got?
I was gonna say something silly, but I think it's better I park it there.
Well, now I want to know what it was.
Well, I was just saying,
the audience does too.
If he puts up like that, that on-ball scoring juice, he's going to resemble a lot like a man named Drew Holiday. If he can figure out the on-ball scoring juice, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree.
That would be more than worth the money. Prime Drew Holiday.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty slick deal for the Magic. The other pretty slick deal for the Wizards, which I guess is also related to the Magic. That was a bad one. I might cut that out.
That was
we got
good.
4
like
years,
that.
54 million. 4 years, 54 for Corey Kispert. This is a bargain, in my opinion. How you feel?
Oh yeah, steal. He's not like the perfect role player, kind of like that Jalen Suggs we're just talking about, 2-way spacing, it's closeout attacking. But shooter, one of the best closeout attackers in the league. I just made a video for my high school team I'm coaching, and it was basically trying to teach them the footwork you're supposed to use for attacking closeouts. And the player I used for that video as an example is Corey Kispert. That's just how good of a closeout attacker he is. Again, the defense is what it is, but for $12 million a year, that's incredible. Very tradable contract. They could easily get, honestly, multiple first-round picks for that.
For sure. Absolutely. Completely agree. We'll put a pin in that. I think you said it perfectly. Şengün, we kind of touched on it, talking about the Jalen Green deal. I think the Şengün deal, I stand by what I said earlier. It's a good deal. I'm not sure if I'm it's a steal. It's just under market value. You got him to take less than the max. It's a good deal.
The only thing that worries me is the fact that Houston's best stretch last year is when he went down. I'm just curious to see. I'm not saying that this is some Ewing theory kind of thing going on, but I'm curious to see how the Rockets juggle, the Şengün at the 5, the Jabari Smith at the 5, kind of smaller, more athletic, more switchy thing. Because I think it works, from a team building perspective. I'm just curious in terms of do you want a guy who is more of a off speed pitch making that much money? You know what I mean? If that makes any sense.
Yeah. I think you could do a whole episode on building around Şengün as like a franchise cornerstone, because I think it is a fascinating case study. And I fear if we continue this discussion, we're going to spend 30 minutes on it.
Yeah, we're going to.
So we're going to nip that in the bud. But yes, that is a fascinating discussion that we might do an episode on this season, because as I've combed through film for my Amen Thompson video that is coming out same day as this episode, I have been intrigued about what they've done using him in some big man kind of responsibilities, DHO stuff, having him be a roll man and operating out of the short roll. Those are in lineups with like Jabari Smith at center. And they're kind of like doing a double small ball 5 kind of thing with Amen Thompson and Jabari Smith Jr. on the floor together without Şengün. And that stuff, I'm like, this is getting weird, and I like it. We're going to move on before we get too far into this. Trey Murphy, 4 years, $112 million. Good deal.
Perfect. What do you mean?
Chef's kiss.
Like, it's just, oh my God. Oh my goodness. Like, wow. I was doing some math, again, back to that formula, and Trey Murphy, so last year he missed 25 games, and so his first year of his contract, right? 25, 26, he'll be making $24 million, I believe is the number, 24, 25, something like that. Missing 25 games last year with that meniscus injury, he was still worth $20 million based on that salary cap. If he played like a regular season, he'd be at like that $26, $27 million mark. And that's not factoring the fact that he's only 24 years old and he's just going to keep getting better. Like, this is a great deal.
Well said. We'll put a pin in that. Spot on. No notes. My guy, Jalen Johnson, 5 years, $150 million. I was surprised when I tweeted. I was like, of all the contract extensions given out today, this might be the biggest steal. I had, a couple people on Twitter. It wasn't like most people seem to agree, yes, this is a steal. But there were some people who were like, this is a bad contract. And I was like, if he doesn't get any better from what he did last year, he would still be worth this much money. And he's probably going to be way better this year.
My spicy take is that, so like we were talking about like Suggs, Trey Murphy, we could mention like OG Anunoby, guy I'm going to discuss a little bit briefly today, Keegan Murray, Mikal Bridges, all those guys, right? Me and you fetishize over them because they're like these elite role players, right? Of all those guys, I think Jalen Johnson has the best chance of going from elite role player to actual all-star. You with me there?
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I'm 100% with. I think there is a threshold where we spend a lot of time talking about these swing factors for players. Where like if he does this, or if he can do this, if he can get to the point where he does this, that, the third. There is a point where you're able to do so many things that some of those swing factors, it's almost like this doesn't really matter as much anymore. Like, I used to feel like Jalen Johnson really needed to improve the 3-point shooting. And it's like, if that 3-point shooting just gets to like 35, 36%, I'm like, that's totally fine. Like, I don't put as much weight on the things that he can't do anymore, because the things that he can do are, one, so many, and two, he's so good at them. The things that he's good at are just plentiful. Like, you can watch him play and you'll be like, oh, he's really good at this. He's really good at that. All these different things start popping up. And it's like, is he going to be a perennial all-star? Probably not. That's just not how that works. Will his production and his impact meet all-star level? That's where I'm like, it's hard to see that not happening at this point.
I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is we talk about like the ability to create and play make, like for this specific archetype. That's like we were talking about with Suggs. Like if he shows more on ball juice, like Jalen Johnson already has all that. He's such a ridiculously good passer. Obviously, he's going to have to work on being the primary ball handler and pick and roll and whatever, but like he's already got such a strong kind of talent level with the ball in his hands that, yeah, it's awesome. Chef's kiss.
Yeah, perfect. I have kind of ended on a whimper here. Jaden Hardy, 3 years, $18 million.
A little Hardy party. I like it. I like it a lot, honestly, because so we did one of our most famous episodes, and I think we got to redo it this year, the top 10 combo guards. Hardy is in that archetype, right? And we know this archetype is super valuable because they're not your primary creator, probably not your secondary creator, but when they get hot on a specific night, they can function like a primary creator for one night, right? Or one night out of every 5 games, 6 games, whatever it is. And that can win you a playoff game, can swing a series, whatever. Guys like that lately have been getting paid a lot of money. Malik Monk, $18 million per year, $19 million per year. Tyler Hero gets Lord knows how much, $25, $30 million per year. Terry Rozier's in the 20s. Anthony's in the 20s. Jordan Poole's in the high 20s. Obviously, Hardy's not as good as those guys, but he's still young enough where there's a chance. So, like the fact that you're locking him up for the next 3 years, and the last year's a club option, team option right there, so you can get rid of him. It doesn't work. I like it a lot. I think it's a really good deal. I think Dallas's front office has been one of the best front offices in the league over the last 3 years, to be honest.
Yeah, I won't add too much. Really, one of the big things I like about him is that even like one thing that we see from like really low minute guys, like guys who are playing less than 10 minutes a game, like Jaden Hardy played less than 10 minutes a game in the playoffs, but he played in 19 playoff games. One thing that you typically see is like, that's such an inconsistent role to be in that you'll see like really, really terrible shooting splits. Cause they're coming in for like 3 minutes here, 1 minute here, 40 seconds here, stuff like that. And Jaden Hardy, really he's in there to be a scorer. That's what he's doing. His passing has improved a lot. It's like the bar's pretty low, but he has improved. But in those small fractions of games that we've seen him in, when he comes in, he does his job. And he's not like, oh my gosh, what is he doing out here? It's like, oh no, we got 45 seconds from Jaden Hardy this game. Sweet. He did fine. Cool. But yeah, this is a good deal. It's less than like the minimum. It's like less than the MLE right now. Which I think for a guy like Jaden Hardy, 37th overall pick in 2022, good deal. Dang good deal. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of today's episode. We each have selected 3 breakout players that we think, I don't know what your thought process was. For me, there was a bit of a wide range. I have one guy that I think is potentially going to start flirting with that high-end, really high-end starter, not quite all-star, but impact and overall production could be all-star level. And then a couple of my guys are just like, could be high-end role player-esque kind of guys. So I don't know how you approached it, but that's kind of the criteria that I set out with. Where are you at?
Yeah, I kind of similar, pretty much. I didn't think, because I was trying to avoid, so I have one player I'm going to mention here who's a sophomore. I try to avoid the sophomores because I feel like it gets a little bit too obvious, like, oh, Brandon Miller's probably going to improve significantly this year, or Jaime Jaquez might improve significantly. Oh, that Victor Wembanyama guy, he might get a little bit better this year, So I think we're pretty much in the same boat. The one thing I will say, I don't have any surprise like all-star guys, because I feel like this year most of them will be like, again, like those young up and coming guys that were already kind of ascending. So it just feels too obvious for me. I don't know. Did you have anybody who you were thinking could be an all-star this year that like nobody would really see coming?
No, none of my picks. I'm like, none of these guys will be all-stars this year. I can say that with like probably 90% confidence.
Okay.
And 95%. Let's say 95%.
So yeah,
so you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
We're in the same boat. Let's go with. I'll go first. Yeah, I'll do first. So my first one's a little bit cheating because I have one guy, but I want to mention the other guy that plays on this team just because I think he'll also break out, but I think that one's a little bit more obvious. But I'm going with Keon Ellis of the Sacramento Kings. The guy I just want to shout out really quickly, Keegan Murray, for most of the same reasons I'm going to talk about Keon Ellis. Plus, he's just 5 inches taller. Just awesome. But I think people kind of already sense that he's going to have a great year. He's kind of going to answer that Trey Murphy range of player this season. But Keon Ellis, my thing with him is I think he was already good towards the end of last year. I just don't think people really noticed because they weren't watching the Kings as much after Malik Monk, Kevin Huerter went down, and they kind of fizzled out at the end of the season. But I'm going to go ahead and say this. He has the player outline of a Derek White. I'm not saying he could reach that Derek White level, but he does all the things that Derek White does. He's like an off-ball combo guard who incredible defender. Last season, he was in the 93rd percentile in defensive EPM. Incredible event creator, playmaker, right? Getting steals at the nail. He pickpockets people on ball. Awesome rim protector. We talk all the time about positional rim protection. A team like the Kings, especially, where you have a guy like Sabonis, who's a below average rim protector at the most important position, you need to surround him with guys like Keon. And then the thing is, when you get a guy like this, look at who are some great defense, like DeLon Wright, right? DeLon Wright does all the things I just mentioned. Usually a really bad offensive player, and that's kind of the drawback. But Keon Ellis, 42% from three last year. And the thing that really gets me, he was in the 88th percentile in true shooting on drive. So he's attacking closeouts well. That's I know when we did it for what is it? I don't even know how many minutes he played last year. I think it was under 1,000, but so it's going to take a while before he can really build up a resume that even comes close to Derek White's, but that's the Derek White outline. One other stat I'd like to mention, when he took over for Kevin Huerter in the starting lineup, Kevin Huerter missed the last 14, 15 games of the season. The Sacramento Kings were third in defensive rating. I know that's a small sample size and all that stuff, but the guy's pretty good.
Yeah, I like Keon Ellis a lot. I think it's nice that it's clear that the Kings have had to kind of work on their defensive identity. That's something that Mike Brown has talked about, is trying to instill a defensive culture. Not that the Kings are close to being cornerstone Kings defense that we all know and love. No one's talking about the Kings defense, but from just an effort perspective, it's they're definitely giving more effort, even though it's not always resulting in improved defensive rating. And Keon Ellis is a big part of that. So I'm right there with you. And it's funny because your first pick in Keon Ellis is similar to my first pick. If you don't have anything else to say about Keon Ellis, I'll go ahead and tell you who it is.
So he's Derek Whitey.
Well, not quite. I wouldn't say quite
okay.
Derek Whitey.
Okay. Hit me with it. Actually, I'm sorry to cut you off. Our synergy's off today, but I just need to say one other thing. Reason why I think Keon Ellis will break out this year is because I think he will. He enters the season as a starting shooting guard. I think he will continue to keep that spot. I think Kevin Huerter might be on the trading block, and Malik Monk will probably remain the sixth man. I probably should have added why I thought he was going to be a breakout player. But proceed.
Yeah, I think. My guy is Miles McBride, and I'll be honest, I'm sure some Knicks podcast and Knicks fans have probably been like, oh, Miles McBride's going to break out. I don't think Miles McBride is going to break out and be like, oh my gosh, he's 15 points, 20 points per game, et cetera, et cetera. I think Miles McBride is just going to be holy cow, this is a really, really, really good rotation player. This is a really solid second guard off the bench. He was 82nd percentile in pick and roll ball handler points per possession among guards that were under the age of 25 last year. Now, that's a very specific stat, but the reason I shout it out is because he's going to be a lot higher up on the depth chart this year, with the Knicks basically selling the farm and shoring everything up to make all the moves that they made this offseason. And so I fully expect Miles McBride to have a pretty increased load. Like, he played 19 and a half minutes a game last year, played in 68 games. I am pretty confident he will be playing at least like 22 minutes a game this year. I think he's going to get a pretty good amount of playing time, especially because, like, they got Cam Payne this offseason. Like, I personally would much rather give Miles McBride backup guard minutes than Cam Payne. I think that's probably not even a remotely hot take. The Knicks are going to run into injuries this year. That's just the nature of having Tom Thibodeau as your coach. Hopefully they don't deal with injuries, but same story as last year. Like, you look at the times when the Knicks had to deal with injuries, and it was Miles McBride stepping up. He had some really solid production in the limited minutes that we saw. Like I said, 19 and a half minutes per game. He was averaging 3.2 deflections per 36 minutes. If you watch Miles McBride play, I don't know where he'd fall on like the, like good to elite guard defender spectrum, but he's at bare minimum like a good defender, I would say. I generally was pleased whenever I was watching him on defense. He can do a little bit of event creation. I like what I saw from him there. On a per 75 basis, 15.9 points, 3.2 assists. And the big draw for me with him is this dude is a flamethrower from three. I think on the season last year, let's see, he shot 41% from three on limited-ish volume, 3.9 attempts per game. So not, when you're only playing 19 and a half minutes per game, you're only going to take so many threes. Shot 40% on all three-point jumpers, 41.6% on all three-point catch and shoot jumpers, and 36.7% on all three-point dribble jumpers. Pretty much any way you swing it, he's a good three-point shooter. And I expect if that volume goes up this year, he will continue to be a very, very good three-point shooter. Is he going to be Dante DiVincenzo levels of three-point shooting? Probably not. He is probably not the movement shooter that DiVincenzo is. I don't know if you can craft aspects of your offense off the bench around Miles McBride's three-point shooting the same way you could with Dante DiVincenzo, but Miles McBride is still a very, very high-level three-point shooter, and I'm really excited to see what he does this year. I think he's going to be a fantastic backup guard.
Two things. One, the serious thing, which is what people came for. I'm pretty much there with you. I love him. My only thing is just the shooting concern in terms of the inconsistency. He's really weird so before this past season where he shot 41% from three, he was under 30% from three his first 2 years. But then in college, his sophomore season at West Virginia, he shot 41.4% from three on about 4 attempts per game. But the year before that, he shot 30% from three. So I need another year, I feel like, of that three-point shooting. But other than, like, if he can figure that out, not only can he play the backup guard minutes, like point guard minutes, he can play alongside Brunson when they have OG and Mikal on the court, because those guys are just such huge bodies, big defenders, plus size guys that you can withstand two smaller guards, or at least you can in theory. I guess we'll find out during the regular season, which actually does matter because you get to answer questions like that. The second thing, this is more for the audience than you, Alex, but me and Alex were texting beforehand, and I'm like, who you doing for the breakout players? And he texted me these guys, texted me two guys, and then he's like, Miles McBride. And at first I'm sitting there, I'm like, Miles McBride? And I'm like, oh yeah, this dude called him by his government name. I'm like, okay, that's like the first time I've heard that in a while.
Yeah, I guess most people I see call him Deuce McBride.
Yeah.
Which,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why I never do that. Who you got next?
Oh yeah, it's my turn, isn't it? That's usually how these things go. You say something, and then I say something. Right. Yeah. Podcasting is crazy. All right, so I'll do my my one sophomore I have on this list. Again, I try to do the sophomores they didn't play a ton last year, but the guy I've really been and I think this is out of necessity, where I really like him, is Julian Strawther of the Denver Nuggets. Obviously, they lose Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. We talked about what that does in terms of their primacy within the NBA last episode. You should check that out if you haven't already. But I mean, they need to replace him. They need to replace his spacing. They need to replace his closeout attacking. They need to replace his perimeter defense. And a lot of people, from what I'm seeing, kind of have already ordained that as Christian Braun, and I don't blame them. I mean, he's been in a lot of big games already. Phenomenal perimeter defender, strong, nice transition player, improved shooter. But my thing is, like, it just takes so long to become a respectable shooter. Like, it takes so much improvement. Like, you really have to prove yourself as a shooter. When you're deemed a below average shooter, for that to go away, like, you really got to be just stroking the nylon, right? And I haven't watched a bunch of preseason Nuggets basketball, admittedly. I haven't watched too much preseason basketball, to be honest with you. But I find it hard to believe that Braun makes that massive of a leap within 1 year to make him a credible spacer for this Nuggets team, which is kind of, already having to withstand Aaron Gordon. Something weird's going on with Jokic's three-point shooting that they kind of have to figure out as well. Like, they really need a good shooter at the two, and Julian Strawther is a ridiculous shooter. He was, I think, second among rookies last year in three-point attempts per 100, behind only Jordan Hawkins, as we've talked many times before, when it comes to spacing. Shooting volume is more important than shooting efficiency. But then the other thing is, like, even if Braun learns how to shoot, like, pretty well, he's not nearly like the guy on ball that Strawther has flashed. Like, he's got a really nice floater game, can attack closeouts. It showed some pick and roll chops. Just really, like, silky smooth, wiry kind of game. And while Strawther isn't the defender Braun has proven to be, he's got really nice size. He's 6'7" with a 6'9" wingspan. And honestly, if you watch his tape on defense, like, he's always in front of his guy. He's always kind of where he needs to be. The only thing is he's just not super physical. And the cool thing is, if you go back and watch Kentavious Caldwell-Pope when he was Julian Strawther's age, he also wasn't that physical of a guy himself. So, like, it definitely is something you can add to your game. And it's not like Strawther's, like, really dependent on burst, where you'd say, okay, well, if he adds the physicality, then he's going to get slower. So I really like the theory of him and kind of the Nuggets' need for him to be that guy if they're going to be a title contender this year.
Yeah, and I think it's nice too, because, like, him and Christian Braun kind of have, I don't want to say, like, perfectly offsetting skills, but you're definitely getting different things from them. Obviously, in a perfect world, you have the skills of Julian Strawther and the skills of Christian Braun in one player. Like, that would be nice, but that's probably, like, a really, 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 really good player. So the fact that they have both, it's like, to me, it's like, it's not one or the other, but rather they're getting different things from both of them. I do agree, though, that Strawther's utility for the Nuggets is more than Christian Braun's right now. Like, they need what Strawther can do. Not necessarily more than what Christian Braun can do, but yeah, I just completely agree with what you're saying. I think he's going to be way more important for them this year and their potential for success than Christian Braun, just in terms of, like, hierarchy of need.
I mean, I think they do, like, need what he gives them more. I'd go that far. I mean, they're a little bit different as players, but, like, broadly speaking, what's the functional difference between Peyton Watson and Christian Braun? Braun's a little bit better of a shooter. He moves a little bit better on the perimeter. Like, there is a redundancy there. You know what I mean? I love Christian Braun. I keep calling him Braun. I guess I don't love him that much if I can't even pronounce his last name properly, but it is deceptively spelled. There's just a redundancy. And one thing I've really been really, really fascinated with roster building and how that works. And when you're not a perfect roster, you can't afford to have redundancies on your roster, right? So, like, you need those guys that's why I like Keon Ellis on the Sacramento Kings. They have an imperfect roster, right? They have a lot of these offensively slanted guys who can't space the floor, and, like, Sabonis, DeMar DeRozan, De'Aaron Fox, right? So they need this like specific type of player, this role player to make it all work, right? And that's kind of what Strawther does here. And that's kind of what I honestly was going for with these breakout players is, what's the saying? When greatness is when like luck meets opportunity or hard work meets opportunity, so something like that, right? That's kind of like what I'm going for.
Or luck is when like, I get what
you know what I'm talking about. There's the word opportunities there, luck, hard work. It's all somewhere in there. But that's like the point of all this. And I think this is what you're going for too, is like you need the opportunity to break out and the skill set to do so.
Yeah. It's funny talking about that and then going into the player that I've got next. Kind of doesn't necessarily have like the urgency that a guy like Strawther has, where, it's like, no, this team's competing. The next guy here is Keyonte George. And I know you said you weren't doing second year players, but I think I went with Keyonte George because
I did one to be fair. But I was just saying I wasn't doing the obvious ones.
Right. Yeah. I think Keyonte George kind of falls into that, like, not necessarily obvious, because if you look at like his shooting splits last year, people are going to look at his shooting splits and be like, bro, like 39% from the field. What are we doing here? Bear with me. We're going to get into some numbers. Some of them are pretty aggressive nerd numbers, but there's a caveat that's going to be at the end of this little spiel that I think is very important. Last year, Keyonte George had the second highest box creation and third highest passer rating, according to Crafted NBA, among guards 22 or under. He was a 59% finisher at the rim, which is not great, but as a rookie point guard, that's actually that's a better baseline than where a lot of guys start out when you're a rookie point guard like that. And he was doing a bulk of the passing and a bulk of the creation in the half court. His percentages are not good. If you look at his shooting splits, they're not good. But if you watch him play, he has no shortage of confidence. This guy looks like, it doesn't matter who's on the floor with him, Keyonte George looks like the most confident shooter at all times when he's on the floor. He could be on the floor with Steph freaking Curry. Keyonte George will look as confident as Steph Curry taking the threes. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? We can have that discussion. There are really positive indicators for him being a future good shooter. One of those being he's a really good free throw shooter, 85% as a rookie. That's solid.
Chef's kiss.
The other thing, the volume, this dude, like I said, the confidence shows up in the volume. He takes plenty of threes. One thing that I found when I was digging through the numbers for him, 35.7% from three off the dribble on high volume. 35.7% isn't elite. He's got a ways to go. But to be a rookie attempting a high volume of off the dribble threes, to be at 35.7%, which is just a little bit below average in overall 3-point efficiency, that's pretty solid. He needs to clean up his shot diet. Sometimes he takes some ill-advised shots. He's got a floater game that I'm monitoring. He shot like 45% on floaters last year, which is good, not great, promising for a rookie. Now, the caveat, I could sit here and I could tell you all these numbers about Keyonte George. There are numbers to like, and there are plenty of numbers to not like. But when I watch Keyonte George play basketball, I could not care less about the numbers. After this episode, when you're done watching this, go watch some Keyonte George film. I'm not even saying go look up highlight reels. Just go watch some game film of him. The good, the bad, the ugly. You will find no shortage of things to just be absolutely blown away by with his game. And the dude has it. Like, whatever it is, he has it. I don't know if he's going to be a star, but the confidence that he plays with, both as a scorer and as a playmaker, the defense, we'll see. He makes passes that are high risk, high reward, which is something that's indicative of future playmaking success. If you're, guys like Tyus Jones, who are just always making the easy pass, extra pass, standard, decent pick and roll passing, like that stuff is fine. But the high leverage passing, like that's what's really important for future playmaking success. High value assists. Are you generating open corner threes? Are you generating open shots at the rim? Are you commanding double teams? Are you able to connect through really tight passing windows? Are you able to create unique passing angles that catch a defense off guard and don't allow them to recover? That is all stuff that when you watch Keyonte George, he's doing right now. And I think right now for the Jazz, you live with the bad last season. For sure, you live with the bad last season. This year, I think you keep living with it. You give this dude the green light. And if you let him develop, I think this year he will definitely improve. But if he doesn't, he's a second-year guy, so I don't know what a breakout would look like for him this year. I think his production across the board is going to take a pretty significant jump no matter what, just by nature of usage and increase in minutes. I just have a hard time seeing a world where somebody who's able to do all the stuff that he can do, as long as he can just figure out the efficiency and clean up the shot, that which, again, this is not guaranteed. But it's hard for me to see a player like this with his skill set after seeing everything he did last year and be like, this dude has future star written all over him when you watch him play. It's just like, it radiates off of him.
It's funny when you were saying go, like when you're done with this, go like watch Keyonte George film. Because I thought at first you were like directly talking to me. I'm like, I've seen my fair share of Keyonte George film. Wrote about him. We did a podcast on him. Yeah, we did a podcast on him. We said last year, you guys can go look at this, but I think me and you both agreed he looked much, much better than Scoop Henderson on film. Forget the numbers. I agree with you. If you look at his statistical indicators from year one, it's very similar to like Darius Garland. Darius Garland, of course, all-star.
That's exactly who I was thinking of when I was watching film. I was like,
all-star caliber player.
This is very similar to Darius Garland.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, I like that a lot. I think this year, because last year was kind of weird where he was in the rotation, was out of it in the beginning, and then really after the Jazz did what the Jazz do, which is break our hearts and sell off their very fun team. They gave him kind of the keys to the car. And he looked really good. The one thing I will say, and I don't think they're similar at all. I remember you tweeted something about. I gotta see if I can pull up the tweet because I just stalk your Twitter all day.
Right.
Let me see. You tweeted it right before we got. Oh yeah, Keyonte George is one of those players that I can't help but tell myself he's going to be a star regardless of any numbers said. Say the dude just has it, and I had these exact same feelings. I just want to trauma dump on you. I had these exact same feelings. Oh my guy, Jordan Poole. And man, like, did he break me? So I would caution you there. Like whenever like some like player just makes you feel like joy, like don't hold on to that joy. Let it fade away because they'll break you, dude. They'll break you, man, when they start taking their third 35-foot 3-pointer down by 30 to like the Milwaukee Bucks on a Tuesday. That's what'll break you.
Yeah. I've been a Minnesota Vikings fan my whole life, so I'm used to sports related things breaking my heart. But it will never be easy. But I'm all in on Keyonte George, baby.
I'm with you. No, I'm in.
I'm in. I'll let my heart get broken. I'm ready to be hurt again.
Do you think there's any hope for a Jordan Poole redemption arc, or is that should I just give up on that?
What does a Jordan Poole redemption look like to you?
Like you just like go, like he's a efficient scorer. Say he's like 22 points a night, 59% true shooting, 5-6 assists per game.
Yeah,
not like terrible.
It's not like
defense.
Impossible. Well, okay, now you're asking a lot.
Like his defensive EPM is like over 25th percentile.
Yeah, yeah, sure. If that happens, cool. maybe the Wizards can say Jordan Poole's a success, but
Oh my God.
I am not holding my breath.
You want to hear something wild, which makes me like a little bit just like depressed about the state of one number metrics. Last season, Jordan Poole was in the 26th percentile in defensive EPM in the entire league. Last season, they're saying a quarter of the NBA was worse than Jordan Poole at defense last year. You buy that?
I'm not sure I buy it. What if you see the thing for me is with those, like, you're still including guys that only played like 5 minutes a game and only played in like 23 games. And I'm like, if we filter those guys out, what percentile is Jordan Poole? That's where I'm like, Jordan Poole would probably be last if you filter out guys that played less than half the season for only like, less than 10 minutes a game.
Yeah, well,
I bet he's last.
Unfortunately, I can't do that. I can't do that filter because we aren't sponsored by Dunks and Threes yet. Special announcement later.
I already paid for my subscription, so they're gonna have to hit us up next year.
Yeah. I think mine renews in February. I want to say. I don't know. Forget it. Besides the point. My last guy. I got to stop stalling. Unless you want me to keep stalling.
Real quick, I do want to say something. I want to say one more thing about the defensive EPM thing. You know who, according to defensive EPM, was the worst defender in the NBA last year?
Jalen McDaniels.
And first of all, chill out. Second of all, Anthony Simons.
Well, that was not a diss on you. I was talking about his twin brother.
Oh, I thought you said Jaden McDaniels. I was like, what's up? Where'd this come from, Matt? Why are you trying to pick beef all of a sudden?
No, that wouldn't be. If I was trying to be funny, I would say, like, I don't know, like Anthony Edwards. I don't know. But is it really Anthony Simons was worse?
All right, that would be funny. He's minus 3.5 defensive EPM, first percentile.
Jesus Christ. We need to do a great debates. Jordan Poole, Anthony Simons defense.
Ooh, that would be fun. That would be fun. All right, who's your next player? We gotta quit stalling.
All right, so my last one's also like you. It's not really a necessity one, but it's just like he's another one of my guys that like anytime I play. So anytime somebody finds out that I'm like I work in basketball to some extent, whatever you'd call this. They always ask me like, who do you play like? And I always tell them Josh Green. Because like him, just kind of really out of control, moving at like 100 miles per hour, moments of greatness. But I think with Josh Green, I don't know how much he's actually going to improve this year, as I think the system change is going to turn him from like a, fringe rotation guy in the playoffs to like a really solid starting caliber player in the NBA. I think he might have like a year very similar to the one that Aaron Nesmith just had with the Indiana Pacers. My reason for it is I think stylistically, like his cadence, again, he's really wild. I always compared him like a Tasmanian devil, like super out of control, moving 100 miles per hour all the time. I think that's perfect. Perfect, knock on wood, if our guy LaMelo Ball stays healthy this year. I think those two, like running down up the court together in transition, will be phenomenal. I think this is going to be a young team that's just really hungry, really scrappy. They'll allow him on defense to take a lot of gambles. I know he's kind of a foul-heavy guy, but he also creates a good deal of turnovers, good secondary rim protector with that athleticism. The three-point shooting comes and goes. If he can get it to like a 37, 38%, I'd be a little bit more comfortable with him as a player. But I just think that change of scenery, that change of style, going from the slow, prodding Luka Doncic to, again, this showman in LaMelo Ball will do him wonders.
I completely agree. I have no notes. I think you hit that. He's like a player designed to be on a fun young team.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and the young coach
too. He is.
I think he'll have more patience with him.
No notes.
Awesome.
My last player. We're on our last player, right?
I'm done though. Yes. I'm all cooked.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Thank
last
God,
guy
right?
I want to talk about. Last guy I want to talk about, somebody that I've been singing their praises for a couple years now, Immanuel Quickley, which, you could argue Immanuel Quickley has already broken out. He was like a 6 man of the year candidate a couple years ago. I think some people watched that season and kind of came away thinking like, okay, this could just be like a career 6th man who does like a lot of stuff really well. But I was watching Scotty Barnes film from last year for a Scotty Barnes video that I did. And just Immanuel Quickley just kept popping up, like doing stuff. Like there's always these side characters that show up when I'm like watching film for other players where it's like, I'm watching to see, how good of a post creator Scotty Barnes is. And then all of a sudden I'm finding myself impressed with like Immanuel Quickley's off ball movement and like guard screening ability, like stuff like crap like that. Immanuel Quickley, obviously production wise looked good in Toronto, 18.6 points per game after the trade, 6.8 assists, which is something that like, I kind of always wondered what was in his bag as like a playmaker and a passer. More so passing than playmaking. I'm not sure how much, one, Toronto would even be looking to extract a ton of playmaking from Quickley, and two, how much playmaking would actually be there to be extracted. But I think he's a good passer. 6.8 assists per game, really, really good. The thing with Quickley that's just always enamored me is I feel like he could be like an elite shooter, and it just hasn't happened yet. Like his percentages look good. He was 39.5% from 3 on 7.5 attempts per game in Toronto. That's like good volume, good efficiency. And I'm just like, I don't know how much of an opportunity he's going to have in Toronto. I would imagine a good amount considering what they're probably going to be looking to do this year, which is get their hands on Cooper Flagg. So I'm like, what does Immanuel Quickley look like with a green light? Just like, obviously they want to make sure Scotty Barnes is still getting his reps. They want to see what they can get out of RJ Barrett. But like, man, I just watch Immanuel Quickley and you've got all the defense that he does. Like obviously he's going to be capped because of the physical tools. He's only 6'2", 6'3". He does have a longer wingspan, which helps negate a little bit of that undersizedness. He's strong. I did a whole video like 2 years ago where it was talking about how Immanuel Quickley was quarterbacking New York's defense for a while. Not necessarily in terms of like a Lou Dort way of like, oh, he's guarding the best player every single night. More of just in like no, you watch this guy and he's like pointing all over the floor and yelling at his guys to make sure that everyone's in the places that they need to be. He's got smart help defensive instincts. Sometimes he makes mistakes, but he's one of those guys where he's quick enough to, one, recognize his mistakes, and then two, make up for them as quickly as possible and recover. So like he's able to cover up a lot of his mistakes. And I know Toronto's like not really going to be hanging their hat on their defense this year. They're probably not going to care that much about their defense this year for all intents and purposes. But if Immanuel Quickley sticks around in Toronto long-term and they make him a long-term piece of this team, I love Scotty Barnes as a defender. I think RJ Barrett can be a fine defender, good defender. And then, whatever other routes they decide to go, I think Immanuel Quickley is a guy who you've already seen so much from him offensively and you've already seen so much from him defensively. It's just like, how much more room is there to go up? And I feel like this is the year that we'll see that because he's in Toronto now and not New York, where it's like, he's not going to be sharing the ball with Jalen Brunson or Julius Randle or any of that. It's like he's going to be sharing the ball with Scotty Barnes. RJ Barrett's going to be doing a lot more off-ball stuff. It's going to be like Immanuel Quickley and Scotty Barnes. To me, that's kind of the vibe I get.
Did you notice you did it again?
What did I do?
The unintentional pun.
Oh gosh.
He can recover
what
quickly.
Was it good at least?
It was silly. It was a little silly one. It wasn't as good as the Wizards one. Was it the Magic and the Wizards?
That one was stupid. I gotta cut that one out.
No, please don't cut that.
Bad.
Please, Sam. Please. I need that. I need that audio. in the world.
Fine.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he's probably out of the 6 guys we named has the best chance of kind of pushing himself into that all-star category.
Do you think simple yes or no gut check, do you think Immanuel Quickley can average 22 points per game?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I think he can. I wish he would draw more fouls, but yeah, I think he can.
That's kind of like, yeah, I'm like tentative yes as well. Which not that like, oh, averaging 22 points per game means you can be an all-star, but that's like, if you're averaging 22 points per game, that gets your foot in the door to where people are like, maybe.
Simple gut check, yes or no. Do you think Jordan Poole will ever average 22 points per game?
Yes, on 53% true shooting.
It'll be all like every game will be like the Kobe retirement game, his last game. Every game will be like that for Jordan Poole. It'll be like 60 points, 53 shots. Man, I love that guy. Wow.
Did you watch the preseason Wizards Nets game?
Can I be honest? I don't watch preseason basketball. I went to the Pistons. I covered one Pistons preseason game. I do not watch preseason basketball at all. I read stuff. I watch your videos. I watch Hoop Venue, whoever else like I really trust, like just to kind of familiar myself. So, like I know like Ryan Dunn is like the next coming of God. Dalton Connect scored like 20 points in a row. You know, I know all that. I know all the happenings, but no, I haven't watched like these NBA players since, I don't know, I guess I haven't I've watched like clips of guys, but I don't for like articles, but I haven't watched like a modern NBA game. I watch a lot of classical NBA during the off season. I watched a modern NBA game since the season ended.
Yeah, I think unless you're like, I know there are people who are breaking down like half court sets that teams are running during preseason, and that's fine. Like if you're doing stuff like that, preseason basketball obviously has like a ton of practical applications for you because you're getting a glimpse at like some of the stuff that your team's going to be doing this year. I watch preseason basketball just like to see like one thing is like, is a player playing with more confidence than usual? Like Jaden Ivey was a good example. I felt like it was obvious that Jaden Ivey was more empowered than he's been before during preseason. But overall, it's like, you know, does that mean that, you know, these players that look better in preseason are going like Talen Horton-Tucker averaged 25 points per game in preseason 3 years ago. You know, it's like, how much does it actually matter?
Be honest with me right now. Like, is Josh Giddey just handsomer Talen Horton-Tucker? Like, seriously. And I know that's probably not the way I should describe Josh Giddey, given with the skeletons he's got in his closet. But I'm kind of being honest here. Like they are the same player. Like basically, like he's a little bit better. Giddey's a little bit better of a passer, right? But other than that, they're like these drive first guys who can't shoot, can't defend, move really slowly, really stiff. Like,
well, Talen Horton-Tucker was pretty athletic in my impression. Way more athletic than Josh Giddey.
The way he's built, though, like there's a ceiling to that athleticism. But he's not getting up. Yeah. Is his head looking like parallel with the rim when he gets up there?
No, I think he definitely one of those guys where like the illusion of athleticism was amplified because of the fact that his arms are 8 feet long. So it's like he's really only jumping like a foot off the ground, but it looks like he's jumping way higher because his hands are able to touch the top of the backboard because he has a 12-foot standing reach. Well, obviously, I'm exaggerating, but
yeah, that makes sense. I got you. You said something about Jaden Ivey, but because I like going to the media dinner table when I go to games and enjoying nice meals. I'm going to hold off on my Jaden Ivey thoughts for a little while. Because I did, the funny thing is, I said I watched one preseason game and I came away with, I literally have one take from preseason and it's regarding Jaden Ivey.
Man, we're going to have to talk about it off air.
Yeah, we're going to leave it.
The viewers are probably not happy with you right now.
We're going to leave it off air for a little bit now.
Okay. But, we have a special, before we start doing the pleasantries and wrapping up, do you want to tell them about the announcement if you don't have anything else to say about the players?
Yeah. Me and Alex are super excited to let you guys know that we now have some formal legitimacy. I'm pulling up the exact thing so I don't give you guys any misinformation, but we, at the Media Pass, what is this, episode 30, right?
Yeah, something like that.
First ever sponsor. Our first ever sponsor. And it's not just some rinky-dink window cleaner by my house. I do love small businesses, though. My father's a small business owner, but it's not that. It's somebody you know. You guys may have once or twice stumbled upon the website Basketball Reference. We are now sponsored by Basketball Reference. We have our own discount code, which you can use. If you use it, you get 20% off. You have to use it on a year-long subscription. And it either has to be for StatHead or for just Basketball Reference specifically. But yeah, you get 20% off if you use the code MediaPass in all caps. Again, it's just MediaPass, MEDIAPASS, just in case that was. It's
the title. If you need help spelling it, it's the title of the podcast.
With no the. Take out the the. Right. But yeah, you get 20%
no space off between media and pass.
1 year subscription. Me and Alex plan on doing a lot of stuff with StatHead this year in terms of might do an episode, just kind of using their data to guide some of our conversations. But it's a great website. A lot of cool features. Me and Alex have been on there now. We've been using it for the last couple of weeks. We really like it, and it would mean a lot to us. It does a lot for this channel and being able to continue to provide quality content for you guys. If you use the code, sign up for a subscription, it would mean the world to us. I'm sure Alex feels the same way.
Yeah. Maybe you use StatHead anyways, and you're getting ready to buy it again this year as the season's starting up. Go ahead and use the code because it helps support the channel, helps support the podcast, helps us, keep the lights on. So thank you to StatHead, Basketball Reference, Sports Reference, all the folks over there for working with us, being our first sponsor. So pretty cool. Very excited about it. This is awesome.
Yeah. If you are a sponsor and you're listening and you want to be our second sponsor, let us know in the comment section below.
Yeah. Our arms are wide open. Come on in. We got room for everybody, baby. I think that's going to do it. Unless you have anything else, we've got. I don't know about you, but I have a busy day ahead of me. I got to get this Amen Thompson video out, and then preseason or not regular season basketball at 7:00 tonight. That's going to be fun. Can't wait for that. And then my wife is also coaching high school playoff volleyball, so I'm going to be at that game with my phone in hand watching basketball while my wife coaches volleyball. I'm sure she'll be thrilled about that, but got to do what you got to do for the love of the game, baby. So, Matt, if you don't have anything else, thank you, everyone, for listening to the second episode of Season 2 of the Media Pass. Be sure to subscribe, leave a like, give us a 5-star rating if you enjoyed it. Let us know below, you got questions. Let us know in the comments. We're ready. We didn't answer any this week because I don't think we had any. So leave those comments, leave those questions. We'll get to them in the next episode. Subscribe, leave a like, all that stuff. I already said that. Follow us on whatever podcast platform you're listening, watching on. Follow us on Twitter at AlexHoops_, at Mat Issa 15. That's MATISSA 15. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one.